engineering. All my socials are right there. I'm at Limited Up on Twitter. Feel free to follow me. Also at Limited on LinkedIn. I'm not at Limited Up on SoundCloud. That's some weird French techno stuff, but give them a follow just in case. Higher. Sorry. There we go. All right. So to jump into this, anyone recognize this woman? How's that? Perfect. All right. So does anyone recognize this woman? All right. So what about now? Right? Marilyn Monroe is the poster child for charisma, but her biggest secret power was the fact that she could actually turn it off. So Marilyn Monroe loved New York, and one of the favorite stories that I have from that is she was wandering through New York with her photographer and the photographer's wife. They rode the subway, they ate lunch, they walked down the street. No one turned, no one batted an eye, no one saw her. Finally, she turned to the couple and she said, "Would you like to see her?" And she, taking off a mask, drew herself up to her full height. And then cars started slowing down and honking. People started stopping in the street. A crowd gathered when just minutes before they had passed her right by. A lot of social engineers would kill to have the charisma of Marilyn Monroe to be able to attract people and to be infectious like that. But really, I think that antisocial, or that ability to turn that off and blend in, is the best superpower you could have. And that's what antisocial engineering is going to be about. So a little bit about me. So some fun facts. I'm not social. I'm a total introvert. It's counterintuitive because if you see me at a con, I'm charismatic. I talk to people. These are all learned skills over time. Really, I'd rather be at home with my wife and my dog. I'm a card magician. I typically don't talk about that anywhere, but it's a good place. So the reason I say that, I got into card magic for the same reason I got into social engineering. In my early 20s, I got out of a long-term relationship. I had no idea how to talk to people or women. And so I did the most logical thing and thought, what's the best way to meet women? And it's learn card magic. It actually worked. So I met my wife in a hookah bar doing card magic. Thank you. So another just housekeeping thing is I had 3 main career goals. Talk at DEF CON. So I thank each and every one of you that woke up at 9 o'clock in the morning after the night that we all had to be here this morning. I want to get a CVE, but a good one, so something like Zero Logon. And I want to steal a baby. So if anyone here works at a hospital and needs a physical pen test, I'll give you a hell of a deal. But outside of that, I've got the best job in the world. I get to chase the things that set my soul on fire. I do just the things that are fun. I get to talk my way into and out of really secure areas. I get to rob banks. Who gets to say that? I mean, a bunch of people in this room, but in typical company. So the why of this talk. If you're anything like me, you're in Social Engineering Village because you actually suck at being social. And so who here's read some of these books? Or, all of these books. So I read every book I could on social engineering and how to talk to people. But I soon realized that those books were written by people who also learned all their skills from books. So for those of you that have read The Power of Habit, you still suck at making habits, right? It's because that book wasn't written for you. These books weren't written for you. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep it high. Okay. These books weren't written for you. So Power of Habit, it doesn't matter if you do a 27-day habit. Because you're a little neurospicy, you're going to have to use anxiety and caffeine to actually fuel that habit. I want to get away from that traditional advice. I hate this. Right? Everyone says just act like you belong. Just carry a clipboard, look busy, put on a high-vis vest, carry a ladder. Carrying a ladder is one of the fastest ways to get interrogated by an office manager, but you can try it. What I do want to say is there's a good argument for natural versus learned social engineers. Just like all those books we talked about earlier, most of those books are written by people that are doing the thing. You can't learn by not doing the thing, right? All of this verbal judo, neuro-linguistic programming, all those are just crappy words invented by people that wanted to sell books. But I want to dispel that myth that social engineering is all about bravado and being arrogant and this generation's con men and just walking confidently. You can be good without having to be social. So we're going to cover our kryptonites and our charisma buffs. The first step to being good is knowing what you suck at, owning what you suck at, either improving it or moving it out. So anxiety is one of the worst things. You can imagine the anxiety of, I'm going to go rob a bank. right? How do you even prep for that? So one of the things that I do is, the first thing I do anytime I get in somewhere is I go into the bathroom. I just chill out for 10 minutes. Not only does it give you time to like reformulate and like get the nerves down, get the jitters out, but it also, if you've got a security guard following you and you sit down, they usually won't wait you out. So the other things that I do is I don't drink any coffee or Red Bull beforehand, and then I get myself in the mindset. Because for me, robbing a bank's a Tuesday, so I got to think it's a Tuesday. So kind of close my eyes a little bit. Maybe I'll yawn it out. I'll listen to one of those audiobooks we mentioned earlier, just so I can make sure I'm really bored. Yeah. So the other thing you'll notice is a lot of people don't fully commit to their bit or to their persona. So they put on a stupid voice or they use a stupid pretext. And you'll notice this if you watch someone that actually does a phishing call. They'll maybe do a nasally voice, and they're going to try to, I don't know, it's like they're making a prank call. And so our neurotypical friends can see right through that and see when you're being disingenuous. The other one is a stupid alias and pretext. I am guilty of this. Don't tell someone that your name is Rick Astley. Or when you're robbing a bank, don't introduce yourself as Robert Banks or Rob Banks. The other ones are talking too much and over-explaining. I am bad about this. And some of the best advice I ever got was, just shut up. Why are you talking? So when we break in somewhere, you're on the phone with someone, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I've done SE calls where I call up, hey, this is Andrew. I'm back-end guy. I start trying to explain it. She says, you're here from IT? Great. Just remote in. Understand when to stop talking. You can just shut up. And at that point, I learned, now I can go into rapport building. This woman wanted to talk about her kids, taking them to the aquarium. We talked where we're going, vacation, and she was the lead of the department. She ended up handing me to everyone else. I said, is there anyone else there that can help me? And I got to fish her entire department because she gave me that social proof. But in that same way, like if you're walking in with the ladder, you don't have to explain to people like, I'm climbing a ladder, I'm changing a light bulb. And don't be afraid of silence. If you've ever been on a support call, the guy's not chatting your ear off the whole time. There's long pauses, there's long mutes. You can do that. So if someone goes, this is really weird. Like, I don't know. I'm like, you know what? That is really, can I mute you real fast, Carolyn? I'm going to go talk to my manager because why? I don't know why. Sorry, I'm just reading the script. The other thing is looking lost. The second you look lost, you open yourself up for someone to come say, can I help you? My wife says that I kind of disassociate. I thought I had a friendly persona. Apparently, I look dead inside when I walk around. And I give off this air of don't talk to me. So that's one of those things. If you just kind of daze out or you're in an IT mode, that's another one. Acting suspicious. And this is important for later on. When you're doing a physical pen test, don't creep around. You're not like, don't like slide into doors. I've done that. I'm guilty of it. Like don't duck behind corners. If it's nighttime, don't crouch. Like don't sprint. If someone's looking out a window, if they see a guy that's tiptoeing and nods and, all blacked out, like they're probably going to be worried versus a guy that's dressed like me just wandering around. I mean, even if you're on a cell phone, that's less suspicious than someone that's decked out in tack gear. And then collision courses, a great thing. I didn't realize that there are times where you can avoid collision courses. When I say a collision course, that means you're going up against a gatekeeper. And on one of my first physical pen tests, we're walking across a parking lot and the security guard stops and they wait. And we're on a clear crash course. I have to walk past them. We're in the middle of this big open parking lot. And the other engineer with me goes, hey man, just have a seat right here. And we sat down in a parking block and we just talked for 10 minutes. And finally security went away. You don't have to force that interaction. But as someone that's antisocial, we think, oh God, we don't want to look weird. We want to make sure we look human. We want to make sure that we follow the script when you can just sit down. So now that we figured out your kryptonites and the charisma buffs, we're going to cover your superpowers. The 6 skills on the left, those are pretty much self-explanatory. Those are things that you all naturally possess that you can do. Those are perfect for you not having to interact with people. And that's where you can get into places and do things without feeling the need to talk about the sports scores or strike up a conversation. Antisocial people are really conflict averse. We don't want to have to talk to people. We're already stressed out about how we're conversing as it is. So to be conflict averse, we will tend to avoid the people. In that same token, being conflict averse, we also are really good at picking up on nonverbal cues. Whatever you can say about antisocial people not being able to read someone, or maybe people somewhere on the spectrum not being good at reading people, they are, because they've practiced and they've honed knowing which people will be nice to them and which people will be jerks. Later on in the talk, I will follow these rules and I'll also break these rules, because there are times when I'm trying to blend in and there's times when I'm trying to get caught. Active listening, that's another good skill to have. If you're good at paying attention, you can pick up maybe a name or a thing. You have no idea how many server rooms we found just by listening for white noise. You just listen for fan noise, you can find them. You can hear people coming or walking around. A lot of times I've used it when I started hey, I'm here to see so-and-so, and they go check to someone and they say, oh, was he here with that other guy? And then when the person comes back, I say, oh yeah, I was here with Dan yesterday. And they go, oh great, okay, perfect. So you can use that. The hyper-focus pays in ahead of time. When you're doing your pre-engagement and you have to learn everything about every niche and everything, you can pick up the maps, whatever it is. The hyper-awareness that comes with the sight, the sounds. Pattern recognition, that's everything from how employees act, how buildings are laid out, and then being comfortable with silence. Every time you talk, every interaction you have is a battle. It is I'm going to be caught. So if you minimize the opportunity for people to talk to you, you minimize your chance of getting caught. There's a theory called conversation threading, where instead of saying, hey, what do you do for work? And you say, I'm a pen tester. You say, hey, I'm a pen tester in Oklahoma. I mainly focus on red teaming, but when I'm not doing that, I want to be at home with my dog. That's where talking too much gets you in trouble. Because that first answer was a simple, okay, there's not much to build on. But when you give someone 6 things, then there's more scrutiny they can have. So if you can just walk into an elevator and shut up, you're going to do good. All right, so we're going to cover the methodology of a physical pen test. So we do a high, a medium, and a low skill attack. So we want to do this because it's a spread. It's not a one and done and the customer fails. It gives them multiple levels to see where their weaknesses are. So we start with the high. That's the guy on the left. They have the clipboard. They've got the outfit. We may have pulled signatures and put calendar reminders on because we compromised the VPN. They have everything that they need to be successful. You would think that person would actually be the most successful, but it turns out that they're caught the most often because they have the most opportunity. They have the most holes. They have the most gotchas. People have a process for dealing with the guy on the left that has everything he's supposed to. The person in the middle, that's your medium skill attack. It's your assumptions. So they're going to be your water guy, the FedEx person. It's not the postal service. Don't imitate the postal service. 6 months in jail, $10,000 fine. Don't imitate the FCC. Same thing. Don't imitate the authority of the FCC. They will get really pissed. Just throw that out there. But the guy in the middle, their job is to be the assumptions. So they're going to have maybe the pretext. They're going to look the part. They're going to let you assume they're supposed to be there, but they're not going to have anything once they fall apart. And then you have the low skill attack. It is the idiot off the street. It's the I'm not supposed to be in here guy. That's me. And I absolutely love my job. So as the low skill attacker, my job is to get as deep into an organization as possible and just look weird. And if I'm not weird enough, then it's getting weirder and weirder until someone finally says, who are you? What are you doing? It's a skill that you have to be comfortable lying to people's faces, thinking on your feet, talking under pressure, and then also lock picking and lock bypassing under pressure. So we'll go ahead and jump into an engagement. So this first story happens during the day. The scope is break into the organization, given, demonstrate the ability to interrupt critical business process. They want to spend as much time as possible. Maximize the interactions, escalate till someone finally confronts you, and take a picture with some critical infrastructure. So a little bit about the facility. It's a gated facility. They've got armed guards at the entry points. I'm going to be a little vague about the industry for NDA reasons. But essentially, I scoped everything out, Google mapped it. We did a ton of pretexting and planning, and we knew we couldn't get in the front door because it's armed guard. They vet everyone through. It's not going to be great. But there's a parking garage. So the day of the event, I kind of walk around. The security guard's pretty on it. So I wait and I wait and I wait. I've lapped the building maybe 3 times. It's a big building. And finally, I see my opportunity. A car pulls up to the gate, and I walk past the gate. So as I'm walking, I made it about 20 steps, and the security guard says, "Sir, do you have a badge?" And I didn't acknowledge, I didn't stop. This is where, as an antisocial person, we're used to following the rule of order. We're going to stop and, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, you caught me. Here's my get out of jail free letter." Instead, I just turned and said, "Yep," and kept walking. I held up my wallet, and I said, "Okay, I'm good." Then it was, crap, now how do I get in? I could see the door, and I saw it had a badge reader, and so I wanted to be prepped, and I knew I might have to hang out, but I went ahead and grabbed my traveler's hook, and I was able to traveler hook the first door and get in. The second door also had hid procs, and so I'm like, great, what do I do now? So I just knocked on the door, and a guy walking by stopped, and I said, "Dude, my badge works on the outside, but not the inside." He goes, "Oh, yeah, you're good." So he just lets me in. What do you think the first thing I do is? I go to the bathroom, I go calm my nerves, I wait 10 minutes, and I come out. So then it's time to go to work. So I start by sitting down at a desk, I plug in, get my laptop ready, fire up Nmap, and I'm just hanging out. I sit there for about 4 or 5 minutes, and the guy across from me immediately stands up. He says, "Hey, are you new here?" "Oh, yeah, I'm here with, I'm doing the IT wireless audit." As I'm doing this, as I'm talking to him, I don't want to give him too much, and I'm looking around his desk, and I notice that he's an anime nerd. He's got the car from Initial D, and I go, "Is that the Torino from Initial D?" He goes, "Oh, yeah." And he proceeds to info dump on me for 10 minutes about how much he loves drifting and all these cars. And it took all the pressure off of me. So he senses, "Hey, I've been talking for 10 minutes. Hey, I've got to start this audit. It was great chatting. Can I get your email? Because I think we should grab lunch the next time I'm here." Absolutely. That guy became my best friend because he was then my social proof. So much weird he was able to dismiss. People like, "What's this guy doing? Why is he standing on a desk?" And like, "Oh, he's with IT. He's fine." So for the boring stuff, under door tool, server room, hands on keyboard, get the wins, get the owns, take the selfies. And I'm like, all right, well, now it's time to start getting weird. So whereas earlier we talked about avoiding confrontation and avoiding people that look mean, I start looking for people that have headphones in, and I start tapping them on the shoulder because people hate being touched. I hate being touched. And hey, can you, where's the, dumb questions, where's the server room? Hey, how do I connect to the Wi-Fi? I'm trying to email this person. What's our email format? And I couldn't get anyone to let me in. I pissed a lot of people off, but I couldn't get anyone to finally catch me. So I started making laps of the facility, just holding my laptop, looking up in the air. And finally, after 3 laps, the office manager comes over to me and he said, "All right, who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm your IT guy." He said, "No, you're not. Our IT guy's in there." I'm like, "I'm your IT guy from corporate." He said, "Well, we don't know anything about who you are." I'm like, "I don't know, corporate sent me." Like, "How'd you get in?" Like, "With a badge." And I said, "Well, I'm going to go check this out." And they walked away and left me. So I took that opportunity. I'm like, okay, I've done everything I need. I've finally been confronted. And so I dipped out, dropped my bag, came back in, and I got to tell them, hey, yep, I was here. I did all the things. Different place, different time, but this time at night. There's a book on red team operations, physical red team operations, and it's all about how to be a super elite operator with NVGs and ghillie suits, and that's not me. And I think that that's a bad way to approach that. But the scope of this engagement was break into an organization at night. They wanted me to go out of my way to avoid interactions. So try not to confront anyone for a while. Try to maximize your time on site. And if you've been there for a while, like an hour, and no one's confronted you, because they said it's super secure site. But if you make it an hour without anyone confronting you, well, then you need to start escalating and get someone to talk to you. And then, of course, take selfies with critical infrastructure. So being at nighttime, So being nighttime, there wasn't this option to, like maybe tailgate behind someone. I was going to look out of place. So I climbed the back fence, and I walked around to all the doors, and I took a number 2 pencil, and I leaned it against the hinge. Thanks, FC, if he's here. I heard that on one of his talks, and it's been a godsend. So the pencil leans against the hinge. The next time someone opens the door, pencil falls in the hinge. You got a nice little booby trap. So I set that, and then I go hide behind an air conditioning unit for 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, come back, someone sprung my trap, and then you can guess the first thing I did when I got in. I went to the bathroom to calm my nerves, chill out, and I started walking around. I put my headphones in, my AirPods, and I threw them in transparency mode so I could pick up all those little noises. One of the side notes from the after action review, the customer kept saying, it was like you had a sixth sense, like you knew where people were coming from because everyone just missed you. What they didn't realize is that people walk like horses and that I could hear them coming. And so anytime I heard someone, I would just duck around a corner or drop into a room. But as far as that goes, did all the things, went to the places, got all of my flags, dropped all my business cards where I needed. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's maximize interactions. So I went to the break room, and again, it's night shift, but they've got a whole busy facility. So I sit in the break room, I talk to people. A good way to get people's attention is to start going through the fridge. So I did that, no one confronted me. I walked to the main production plant and started opening cabinets that I wasn't supposed to and trying to touch things. And again, no one bothered me. It wasn't until I finally tried to access an area that had diesel generators and battery backups that one of the engineers stopped me because he's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm here fixing the Wi-Fi. He goes, there's no Wi-Fi in there. But he was the first person, and he only confronted me because I was starting to do something dangerous. So I went with my pretext, well, who are you? How'd you get in? My badge. He made me go show him that my badge didn't actually work. So he calls his boss, and his boss is furious because corporate didn't tell him that they were going to send someone out, and they're going to kick me out. He said, no, you send him out. I said, well, I'm going to hang out for like 10 minutes in case you find out I'm supposed to be here. He goes, no, get off my site. I don't know who you are. You don't have any authority to be here. He was a real jerk. I said, okay, I'm going to stand outside for 10 minutes, and once you figure it out, I'll be here. So they kicked me out. I sit outside on a rock. 4 minutes later, he comes out, and he says, you son of a bitch. He said, how far did you get? I said, I got everything. Yeah. He was furious with me. But I said, don't worry, it was your guy that caught me. So he was really happy with that. But again, I was able to get all the things, and it was awesome. So the breakdown of all of those, right? I don't tell those stories because they're awesome, but I tell them because I used all those skills, and I didn't have to use this bravado, or I didn't have to be this outgoing, charismatic figure to pull that off. I got to just be myself, right? So I got to use my unfriendly demeanor, my resting jerk face, being able to lockpick under pressure, being able to lie to people. That was the great thing about being a magician was you learn to talk to people and tell them you're doing one thing while you're doing something completely different. Learning which people to cause confrontation, interact with, and knowing when to start looking suspicious, knowing that I look too normal just walking around, so maybe I need to start getting a little weird, and then being able to slip out unnoticed. So my closing thoughts on social engineering and being a good social engineer. Be your authentic self. There are plenty of Kevin Mitnicks and whoever, name a person. They are who they are. Play to your strengths. Be the you that you want to be as a social engineer. And social engineer your own opportunities. So when I wanted to learn something, I found a way to always make it the thing I wanted to do, or I found a way to social engineer it. So let's say you want to get good at lock picking. How I got good at lock picking under pressure? I went to Home Depot and picked locks because you're not going to jail, but it gives you some nervous feeling. If you want to get good at vishing, answer every spam call that comes to your phone. Just pick it up and you talk to those guys as long as possible. If you can keep on the phone for an hour, you're doing great. That's a great way to practice all of your vishing, and it's easy. Lie everywhere that you go. Yeah. Anywhere you can. If you're on an airplane, lie about your name. Make up a whole pretext. See if you can get away with this stuff. Get used to repeating this. So I apologize if anyone has been around me and I've told a story and you're like, wait, you're not Dave and you're not a deep sea fisherman. No. But and finally, adapt the engagements to you. Don't adapt yourself to the situation. And it's kind of like if all you have is a hammer, every problem's a nail. And in IT world, if you've worked it long enough, you know that if you're a network engineer, you're going to solve all of your problems with VLANing. And if you're a Windows engineer, you'll solve the same problem with ACLs. And if you're a firewall guy, then you're going to do firewall rules. Adapt your engagements to who you are and make them what goes to your skill set and know your weaknesses. And that is everything. Thank you. And I will be in the hall if anyone has any questions or wants to chat.